What is self-sovereign identity? In this video, I will answer this question and explain why our current form of digital identity is broken and what could be the future of identity management. Identity is a uniquely human concept, and before we dive into the online identity, I want to explain what we're talking about. Identity is what defines a person and distinguishes it from another person. In psychology, the scientific study of the mind and behavior, it includes qualities, beliefs, and personality. When we ask sociology, the scientific study of society, we get a slightly different answer, which includes culture, history, and religion. So whatever technology we use as a framework for this concept, it needs to be flexible enough to display an incredible amount of human diversity.
The miserable status quo.
So let's take a look on how online identity currently works. Every one of us got a lot of personas at different companies and organizations. A persona is a subset of an identity, taken from a particular standpoint. One person can have multiple personas depending on the social context like work, close friends, hobbies, etc. Each of these administrative identity systems is proprietary and owned by the organization that provides it, and we use usernames and passwords to authenticate ourselves. Proprietary user-centric approaches like sign in with Google or sign in with Apple or any other surveillance capitalist would just lock you up in their ecosystem again. The consequences are that the user isn't in control. It's cumbersome, and data breaches and identity fraud are prevailing issues. We deserve better, and your identity needs to be truly yours.
The need for a new base layer framework.
We use the terminology of self-sovereign identity, SSI in short, as the concept of individuals or organizations having the sole ownership of their digital and analog identities, and control over how their personal data is shared and used. The user is central to the administration of one's own identity. This adds a layer of security and flexibility, allowing the identity holder to only reveal the necessary data for any given transaction or interaction. It gives individuals or organizations agency to control the identity information, and therefore acknowledges that identity is about much more than logging in. Since this explanation sounds a little incomprehensible, let me explain a key concept of self-sovereign identity.
The trust triangle.
The trust triangle explains the issuance of a credential and its usage. And here we have three major stakeholders: the holder of a certain attribute or credential, who is also referred to as subject, the issuer of identity information, and the verifier, who requested the information. If you want to prove your identity, for example for opening a bank account, you need to authenticate yourself with your government ID. This ID is issued by the government to you as digital credential, which is signed by the government, which makes it a verified credential. You can then show a proof of this verified credential to a verifier, which in this case is the bank. Since the bank trusts the government, we have established a trusted relationship between all participants. Before we dive deeper into the topic, I want to explain what an attribute is. An attribute explains what qualifies a person, without necessarily being unique to that person. These are elements like gender, height, weight, etc. An attribute can also be a verified credential, which is issued by a third party, such as citizenship, a university degree, or a membership status. But then, obviously, you ask yourself, where's the data of the credential stored? And for that question, we don't have a common answer yet. However, the SSI community has a consensus to not store this data on a blockchain. A blockchain is only used to store the decentralized identifier, DID in short, as well as a signature if necessary. The identity data itself is rather stored on a decentralized data storage.
Decentralized Identifiers, DID.
An identifier refers to a real-world identity about a particular use case or domain, which has legal and practical implications, like a passport number, phone number, or an email address. A decentralized identifier serves as an identifier for verifiable self-sovereign digital identity. DIDs are fully under the control of the holder of the DID, independent from any centralized registry, identity provider, or certificate authority. Basically, a global unique identifier that does not require any centralized registration authority, because it is registered with the distributed ledger technology or other forms of decentralized networks like blockchains, which points to a DID document containing further instructions where to find attributes, claims, or similar information, and how to communicate with the identity holder.
Real-world examples.
The first use case I want to illustrate here is buying alcohol, where the identity holder is proving his age, but the alcohol vendor doesn't need to know your birthday. They only need to know if you reach the age which permits you to buy alcohol. With the trust triangle, this works like this. The government issues a verified credential, an ID, to the holder who shows a zero knowledge proof to the verifier, who in this case is the alcohol vendor. The merchant then verifies the signature and cross-checks the DID with a public registry from the issuer. The zero knowledge proof contains super fancy cryptography and basically proves that you're 18 or older without revealing your birthday or any other information.
Civic Budweiser vending machine.
Scanning the QR code with Civic app.
Authorizing crypto beer to get my age.
Here we are at the world's first cold crypto beer vending machine.
Another use case is access to mobility. Here a collaboration between Yolocom, X-Ride, Deutsche Telekom, T-Labs, Riddle & Code, and Simple Mobility offers a fully decentralized scooter rental system, enabling the user to share their credentials directly with the scooter company, get on and ride, all from the control of their cell phones.
Now, the application for the ride sharing is jumping over to my self-sovereign identity. And this is the cool part. My identity exists with me. And I'm going to connect to this ride sharing service and tell the service what I want it to have about me. And in this case, it's basically my name. You guys might want to watch out. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But if you look closely, you can see the wheel moving right now. The scooter's on, it's activated. I'm cruising around Barcelona right now. And it was that quick.
A nascent identity standard.
To conclude, we can say that the SSI community aims to build a universal identity layer for the web and wants to enable technical interoperability between identity systems of all sorts that puts the user into center. Promising projects like Hyperledger, Uport, Sovereign, Yolocom, Bloom, and many more already enable us to experience a small taste of what is coming. Nevertheless, it is still a nascent technology, and further exploration, standardization, and integration will be necessary to develop a holistic framework and unleash the immense potential of self-sovereign identity. So this video is only a short introduction to SSI and part 1 of a series. So let me know in the poll what topic of SSI you want to know more about, and subscribe and hit the bell button if you don't want to miss the following videos. Have you had your first experience with applications enabling you to own your identity data already? If so, let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, let the algorithm know and give it a thumbs up. See you in the next video. And as always, own your keys.